hire a math tutor. I would rather hire a tennis coach. But isn't that what we tend to do as business owners? We try to do it all. So I remember when I first started Alinea, which is a full-service production company. I had absolutely no background in production. My first client, the first client we ever had, wanted us to live stream their event. And so the true nature of entrepreneurship, I said yes, and I figured it out later. So I'm sitting there, live streaming this event, all things that I had never done before, and there was a white square on the camera. And I thought it was just to focus the lens. But it turned out it was on the actual live stream. So there was a white square encompassing the speaker throughout the entire live stream, and I spent all of my time trying to figure out how to hide the white square so it wouldn't be distracting to the viewers. Needless to say, after that first experience, I realized that the technical side of live streaming and production was not my forte, and found mission-aligned videographers that I could work with. I first learned about EI about 2 decades ago when I started working as director of HR for Aveda. Aveda is the hair company. Some of you may know about it. So the owner came into my office one day and said, I've heard that if we can train our employees on emotional intelligence, we can make more money. So figure out how to do that. So that's exactly what I did. I researched, I read books, I developed a curriculum customized for our employees, which were mostly hairdressers, a highly emotionally driven demographic. And what I found was not only did we increase revenue by 20%, which I got full credit for, we also had employees coming in and telling us how much happier they were, how much better their relationships were at home with their spouses and with their children, and also how much better their relationships were at work. What a difference the tools had made in their lives, what they learned. And so that's when I was really sold on it. If we can accomplish revenue generation and happy employees, it's the best of both worlds. So I found that with EI, there's no one right or specific way to implement it. Everyone has to take the tools and make it work for themselves in their own ways. So there are 5 elements, 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. And this is a little bit about how I implement them in my life. So many times in entrepreneurship, we're so passionate about our product and service, we kind of put blinders on and stay on our path in a singular way. We say no to things that don't make sense to us, and believe that everything should happen in a specific way with a specific set of sequences. So a super simple example of this is I was raised believing that you get your education, you get married, you work for a little bit, you have a family, you raise your children, and then you retire. So that's great, not a bad life to have. But that too can be fine, but what if it's not what my life is supposed to be? So our belief systems are usually forged on what others have told us. It's not right or wrong, it's just not our beliefs. It's what we've been told is what we should do. So the thing is, we won't live the life of the other person lived. We won't run our businesses the same way that somebody else did. And in an ever-changing world, our children will not live the lives that we live. So when I was able to use self-awareness, the first pillar of emotional intelligence, to strip away the system of beliefs others had given me, I found a set of beliefs that I found true for myself and my life, which in turn opened up a world of possibilities. Probably the most common question I guess asked is, how do you do it all? So, run 2 businesses, raise 3 kids, do all the extracurricular activities, volunteer, which is a big portion of my life as well. And although I love to say, well, I'm just that good, the truth is, anybody can do it. You just have to choose to do it. The single most important rule that I learned from self-regulation, which is the second pillar of emotional intelligence, is to stop multitasking. So multitasking is a misnomer anyways. The brain can't do more than one thing at a time. When we do multiple activities, it's actually switching between them, which leaves you not efficient, but exhausted. Both your brain and yourself. So when I stopped multitasking and started single tasking, I was present and in the moment. I used time blocking on my calendar to block out specific activities for specific times. So if check email was not during the 12 to 12:30 slot, I would not check my email. I found that I was able to self-regulate and my productivity was increased. I finished tasks that would normally take 6 hours in 2, and it freed up a ton of my time. The third pillar of emotional intelligence is empathy. And Anita Morjani, who I don't know if any of you have heard of her, she is a woman who experienced a very powerful near-death experience. She says simply, we are all connected for what I feel. So when I've been stuck in my life personally or in my business, which has happened on multiple occasions, not knowing how to find my way through, I've gone and served someone else. So for me, the fastest way to a stuck spot is to help somebody else. And I do it not at the sacrifice of myself, but in service to myself. So from a day in a soup kitchen to helping someone simply put the groceries in their car to what I recently just finished was helping a friend with their business for a year while learning, who also owns a production company, while learning new tools and making new connections that helped my business. There's nothing that's clear in my head and my path faster than doing something. The fourth pillar of emotional intelligence are social skills. So to me, this means be a connector, what most of you are here for also. Live in the abundance mindset. There is so much lack mindset, I feel, taught to us today that we have to keep things secret in our work, somebody's going to steal our idea, there aren't enough customers for multiple production companies in the world. And I found that the lack mindset tells us there isn't enough for everyone, and it kills momentum faster than anything else in entrepreneurship. So when I shifted to an abundance mindset, started seeking collaboration and seeing that there is, in fact, enough for everybody, I found more and more successes brought my way. Wayne Dyer once said, when you change the way you look at things you look at change. And so now when I'm out and about or in conversation, I shift out of the what's in it for me mindset to a why am I meeting this person? Who can I connect them to? Whose purpose or path can I help facilitate unlocking? So the best tool for me to do this is to allow myself to only ask questions in a conversation. It switches my brain out of the lack mindset and into a mode of curiosity. So if I asked you guys a lot of questions today, you'll know why. So motivation is the final pillar of emotional intelligence, and to me, one of the most critical for the journey of an entrepreneur. Be purpose-driven. It's not only true for an entrepreneurial journey, but it's just true for life in general. Figuring out why I get out of bed every day. That was the most important thing that I did. So the path of entrepreneurship can be challenging. When we're grounded in purpose, it helps us get through the humps. So my purpose? To reverse trends of suicide and depression in every community across the country and around the world. Everything I do, every project I take on, every task I do on a daily basis has to be tied up to that purpose, or I don't do it. It doesn't make it on my calendar. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a personal story. That hopefully will kind of tie everything together. I tried for 10 years to get pregnant, diagnosed with unexplained infertility, which just means the doctors don't know any more than we do. I went through more fertility still to this day cannot explain and have never felt before. It was a pure joy, and it really consumed me. Some people call it a Kundalini awakening. Some say it's enlightenment. Some call it Satori. And some describe it even as a near-death experience, although I wasn't anywhere near death. I had a purely blissful 8.5 months pregnant with triplets, which is no small feat. So when the epidural went in, the light went out. And what followed was a soul-wrenching period of postpartum depression. My doctor gave me 2 options. She said, I can give you medication that will leave you unable to take care of your children, or you can figure it out on your own. 2 really terrible options. But I chose the latter. So the way back from postpartum depression was not easy. Not with 3 crying babies, never having done that before, and this darkness that I had never felt before. In a strong support system, my husband, my parents, thank God I was an only child, and my dear friend from high school, Durga. She and I had recently reconnected. So one day, soon after I had the triplets, I was sitting on the floor scrolling Facebook while I napped, which is something most new moms do because we don't know what else to do. And a video popped up on my feed. It was an interview of Oprah interviewing an author named Michael Singer. Have any of you heard of Michael Singer? So have you heard of WebMD? So Michael Singer, in addition to being author of The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment, was also CEO of WebMD, multi-billion-dollar company. So while Oprah was interviewing Michael Singer, what he was describing during the interview was what I had experienced during my pregnancy. And I knew 2 things to be true. The first was he hadn't been pregnant, so there might be a way for me back to that place. And second was that he had written 2 books, so maybe if I really study them and break them apart, I might be able to find a way back. So I did just that. I read the books about as many times as I had fertility treatments. I marked them up with different colored highlighters. I scribbled notes and anecdotes on the sides of the pages. And within the year, I had become a student of Surrender. During this year, I developed my own set of tools that helped me through the depression. I wasn't back to bliss that I felt when I was pregnant, but I was certainly far closer to it than I'd ever been on my own doing. Some months later, I learned a statistic that the suicide rates of children ages 10 to 14 have quadrupled in the last decade. And as a new mom, I couldn't understand what was happening to children that they felt a depression so bad that suicide was the only option. This is what birthed the idea for my first company, We Go Kids. An activewear kids clothing and parenting, social emotional learning company to help parents navigate the early years of raising kids by building a strong foundation of emotional intelligence based on the tools that I found to be successful for myself. So as part of sharing information, I came up with a few TV shows, again, something I had never done before, to help jumpstart the conversation. So I had no background in any of it, but I did have a purpose. And as soon as I shared that purpose with others, the parents who had the skill sets that I needed to pull it off just showed up. I had a dad who was a videographer who heard my purpose and said, I will show up to your house to film this whenever you need me. So one of the shows was designed to teach parents how to get their children to crave healthy food from an early age instead of having to trick them into eating it. So I asked my friend Durga, the one from high school, if she hosted. So she was a vegan mother of 3 girls, and she loved cooking. She was happy to help, and she named the show No Chickpeas in My Chocolate. And the high school that I went to was very small. There were only 30 kids in my class from 6th So the triplets were now 2, and I was journeying well on my path to surrender. And I went over to Durga's house to film some recipes. So during a break, we sat down and I started telling her my story about why I started Eco Kids. I told her about the light that I experienced during my pregnancy, the severe darkness and postpartum depression after, and I told her about the interview with Michael Singer that I had seen on Oprah. I told her about the time I spent studying his books and building my own set of tools, and I told her that he saved my life. And I kept going on and on about him. I am a huge Michael Singer fan. So as I kept talking, she kept looking at me weirder and weirder. And her head tilted to the left with confusion, and I was looking at her from the right. What about what I was telling her didn't make sense? About what I was telling her was confusing. Finally, I asked her, why are you looking at me? And she took a very deep breath. She put her hand on my arm and said, you know who's my father? Michael Singer. Israel. So an infinite amount of time seemed to pass, and I was sitting there with my mouth open, absolutely no words coming out. There were no words for what just happened. And finally she smiled and she said, he's my father. Would you like to come to Thanksgiving with us? And I said yes. But there wasn't one part of me that could process what just happened. How could a man who had saved my life at 36 had actually been in my life since I was 12? How could he have been practicing this path for decades, and I was only learning it now? Everything we need, we already have. It's putting our awareness to it that allows it to appear. So 6 weeks later, I found myself in a circle of 350 people, holding hands and listening to Michael Singer himself speak before a vegan Thanksgiving potluck lunch started. His place is called Temple of the Universe. It is just outside Gainesville, open to the public. He speaks 3 to 4 nights a week, and it's just a really amazing place. You can, in fact, go online and listen to his lectures. So I spent the next couple of years continuing to grow Eco Kids, doing interviews and podcasts, opening an online store, adding the clothing line to retail stores, all while raising triplets. Soon after that, I found myself at a podcast meeting in Tampa. A woman who owned a marketing agency offered free marketing services to any of us who needed help, so I raised my hand. She assigned to me Adam Cummings, and he was a Marine Corps veteran and had his own company called Betting America. We ended up helping each other. So as Adam and I learned about each other's businesses, I also learned a great deal about the military and veteran communities. I always had, I think, like many of us, much gratitude for those who serve and appreciation for the protection that they provide to us. But I felt like the gratitude wasn't enough. What I didn't know at the time that I met Adam was that 22 veterans a day were committing suicide. And although the number has decreased in recent years, it's still a far road to zero. And so I spent the next year listening and learning about veteran suicide, PTSD, trauma-informed treatment, military life, veteran transition, and the struggles that military families and the children go through. There are hundreds of nonprofits in the veteran space and tons of education and resources, but why wasn't this number coming down? There wasn't really anyone creating content that spoke directly to veterans in transition and active duty military to empower them not to take their own lives. So Adam and I founded my second company, Alinea Production, a full-service production and marketing company with the objective of creating connection-focused content. We've traveled far from when I couldn't get the white square off the camera. We've done everything from producing suicide prevention commercials to raising funds for veteran nonprofits, content creation and social media management for both nonprofit and for-profit companies that are purpose-driven. I have the privilege of producing and directing a music video for a Grammy Award-winning artist that was played at the Super Bowl. And most recently, I created and produced a 12-episode character-driven narrative about DEI for Google. That has been my journey so far, and I'm happy to have shared it with all of you. Because I hope that in presenting the highs, I've also kind of managed to sketch the lows that encompass my path. And how a sense of purpose, in conjunction with the act of surrender, has opened up a road filled with potential and possibility, all tied together in a synergy that is emotional intelligence. And I'd like to leave you with these words from Leah Busby. She's founder of TaskRabbit. Life is like the monkey bars. You have to let go to move forward. Once you make the decision to leap into entrepreneurship, be sure to loosen your grasp on old concepts so you can swing your way to new wings. Thank you very much. I'd love to answer if there are any questions. If anybody else wants to share stories, I'd love to hear those.
I want to hear more about your career. Did you have a moment, or was it just an overall feeling while you were pregnant? Was there any specific, light come on, light experience?
There was, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So I had actually given up on having children. I was halfway through the last treatment and told my doctor in an act of surrender that I was done. I wasn't going to have it anymore. I wasn't going to do it anymore. And he said, "You're halfway through, so let's just finish this cycle. Number one, you paid for the money, and number two, you've already got all the drugs. So let's just finish it." So he convinced me to finish it, and I said yes. So we did the procedure, and then they told me to take a pregnancy test, and I said no, because I had taken hundreds of them, and it was a traumatic experience to do that. So I told the nurse, who was at that point like my sister, "I'm going to come in, you're going to draw my blood, I'm going to sit there, and you're going to tell me one way or another." And so that's what we did. I went in. My husband was standing in the door, and there was a nurse standing behind him. I was sitting in the chair, and she had drawn my blood, and she tested it, and there was just like the world had stopped spinning while she was getting the results. And then she yelled at the top of her lungs, "You are so pregnant." And the minute she did that, there was a level of joy that consumed me. I felt like a light had gone in, or was in, and you know the Michelin Man? That's what I felt like. I was glowing and walking around like the Michelin Man with a light bulb on inside of me. And it lasted my entire pregnancy. The ego voice that people hear, or that other voice that tells us all the things that are going to go wrong in our lives, like it was gone for the entirety of my pregnancy. Thank you.
When you look back at the last few years as a mother, an entrepreneur, and growing your businesses, what are some of the things that stand out to you? How did you overcome them through the years?
Yeah, that's a great question, Robert. I think really probably the biggest lesson that I've learned is kind of this idea that we have to make things happen, and that I have to drive the bus, and I have to, really be the one. And what the path of surrender has taught me is that it's not without work. You have to do the work. Like when Robert invited me, like I had to write something down, I had to get in the car, I had to drive here, but there is a allowing things to happen and not forcing them to, so that you're kind of being pushed rather than having to pull. And that really is, through the path of surrender, probably been my biggest takeaway. So I used to be like a really, have my goals and all the things that I want to do next year and everything, and I don't do that anymore. I feel like in many ways the universe dreams far bigger for me than I can dream for myself, and I want to leave that all those opportunities available to see what happens.
Any other questions? Well, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
So feel free to get some appetizers. Cookies are some of the best in the
and then maintaining your focus on what you want as opposed to what you don't want. If you can master that ability, then you are destined to have the life of your dreams. We are living, every single one of us is sitting at the precipice of an infinite number of possible futures. So you're not just at one future where you get everything you want. It's not just a future where you get nothing that you want and you suffer miserably. There are an infinite number of futures in between. And so what's going to make the difference between this future and that future, or which one in between, is your ability to focus on what you want, specifically identify it, and focus on it most of the time. So I'm going to teach you exactly how to do it. It's really sad. And when I tell you a big story, it's a personal story. I went to prison in 1997. I did 2.5 years in prison. Now, a lot of people are surprised. They're like, how do you become a lawyer if you've gone to prison? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit. My time reading self-help books, motivational books. I've been thinking for rich more than 100 times. I focused my energy on becoming a better person when I get out of prison than I was when I went in. And I focused my energy mainly on planning what I was going to do when I got out. I set myself a bunch of goals. I set myself some goals, and in prison we all have anything to do. So what I did was I wrote down the goals, and I wrote them down over and over. And these were the goals that I set for myself. Number one, I am a lawyer by December 31st, 2005. Now, I was getting out of prison in 1999, right when the turn of the century, between 1999 and 2000. That's when I was getting out of prison. So I said, December 31st, 2005, I am a lawyer. By December 31st, 2005, I am a partner in a law firm. I own my own house. I have perfect credit, and I own a silver convertible Mercedes SL 500. And so I was bound and determined to reach these goals. If I talked to somebody in prison about it, which I did many times, a lot of times they said I was crazy. In fact, I hung out on Hispanic. I hung out with the Hispanic crowd while I was in prison, and they had a nickname for me called Negro Loco. They called me Negro Loco, which means I'm half crazy. And the reason why is because I talked about my goals all the time. And they thought, you are a good fellow. This guy is out of his mind. How is he ever going to be a lawyer? Well, I didn't let that deter me. So when I got out of prison, I focused my energy on achieving the goals that I set for myself. And I talked to somebody who knew more than I did about it, and a lawyer that handles bar grievances and people that have had trouble with the bar, and he said it's possible. And that's all I needed to know, was it's possible. And I said, well, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? And he gave me a game plan. He said, what you got to do is you got to build the evidence to prove to the Florida bar that you are worthy of becoming a member of the Florida bar. That the only reason they're going to leave you out of the bar is that they don't think you have the proper character. So prove to them that you have the character that makes you worthy of becoming a member of the bar. So I was focused on my goal. I knew it was going to happen. So I said, well, what kind of evidence do I need to prove, to use to prove? So I was looking for drug abuse, for marijuana and cocaine and crack. And so I said, I got to prove that that's not an issue for me. I have to prove that I'm not a drug addict. And so I went to a call-in center. I voluntarily did this. Nobody made me do this. I called in every day to a call-in center, and if my number came up that day, I had to go and do a urinalysis to prove that I was clean. I did this for 5 years. Every single day I would call in voluntarily. I enrolled in AA and NA, and I went several times a week, and I logged every time I went because I'm keeping a journal, so I can use this as evidence to prove to the bar that I've done what I have to do to improve myself, and I got a mentor from AA, and that person turned out to be a witness for me because he could tell that I show up to the meeting. Not only that, I stayed office of paralegal. Same one. And I stayed at that when I take a job. I got promoted to become the head paralegal, and I made a huge difference in the firm. And so I had the lawyers that were working with that firm testify on my behalf, write letters on my behalf. And so I did all this to put myself in a position where the Florida bar would accept me. I got my civil rights score. I had to hire a lawyer for that. I took the Florida bar exam. I passed it with flying colors. I annihilated the Florida bar exam because I was not going to that test. And then next thing you know, September 2005. Remember, the goal is by December 31st, 2005. September of 2005, I got a letter from the Florida bar saying congratulations, you've been admitted. One of the greatest moments in my life. It was incredible. So, next thing you know, that very week, now remember, it wasn't just to become a lawyer. I said by December 31st, 2005, I'm going to be a lawyer and a partner in the law firm. That very week, the very week that I became a lawyer, Vince Barrett from UBC Barrett, senior partner, comes into my office, says, you have done such a good job for us. We are so proud of you. We are so grateful for what you've done. We're going to offer you a partnership right out of the gate. I was made a 20% partner my very first week as a lawyer. That is completely unheard of. That never happens, but it happened to me because I was focused. Now, why did that happen? It didn't happen by chance. It didn't happen by magic. It happened because I knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to become a partner in the law firm, so I did what I had to do to make myself completely indispensable, so that these partners could not even imagine losing me. I took as much off their plate as humanly possible. I worked sometimes from 3 in the morning until midnight at night. I was a crazy, mad working man on a mission. On a mission, and I got what I wanted, which is exactly what brings me to the next slide. I do not recommend working hard to reach your goal. I think that's an absolute terrible plan. Why? Because working hard is a grind. Working hard, if you have to force yourself to do it. What I recommend you do is you create a mission, and you live your life on a mission, and then none of it feels like work. It doesn't feel like work at all. It feels like you're going to play every day in a game you intend to win. That's what happens when you get on a mission. And so the key to life, the key to never working a day in your life and always enjoying everything that you do is working from a mission. And we, ladies and gentlemen, are put on this earth, not just for ourselves. We are put here to make this world a better place. Every acorn wants to grow into a tree. Every flower wants to bloom. Every human being has a deep-seated desire to reach their fullest potential. Every single one of us sitting here, sometimes we suppress those desires. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't acknowledge the desires, but they're always there. And what we do is, if we are not acknowledging the desires, if we are not contributing the most we can to make this world a better place, then we start to have negative effects in our lives. We start to get depressed. We start to turn to drugs, alcohol. We start to distract ourselves with other things. But when you are living your life on a mission, you don't have to worry about those things because your life is awesome. And so I want to share with you my thoughts on how to develop your mission in life, which is the first step in determining your master goal. So, 4 elements to think about when determining your mission in life: earth, wind, fire, and water. Earth, wind, fire, and water. The first element to think about is the fire element. The fire element is what puts a fire in your belly. This is what motivates you without you even trying to be motivated. You comes from the pain that you suffer. We've all suffered pain. We've all gone through hardships. We've all overcome challenges. Every painful experience, every hardship, every challenge has been molding us, shaping us, teaching us the lessons we need to learn to become our most powerful self, to develop our mission, to become the fire that motivates us so that we don't have to work, but we're compelled. We're compelled to do what we got to do to make this world a better place. And everybody's different. Everybody's different. But let me share with you what my challenge was, the pain that I experienced. I was small. I was born very small baby. I started kindergarten at 4 years old. So I started kindergarten early. So I was always the shortest person in my entire school. And so I was older. And I had some really horrible bullying experiences. I had some third graders used to take me out to the corn field with me every day after school. That was when I was in Illinois. I had a situation I used to live in California where I lived in a Mexican neighborhood, East LA, a very, very tough neighborhood. And so I'm half Hispanic, I'm Guatemalan, but I don't look Hispanic. I look very Creole, and so they didn't like me. And I didn't speak Spanish at the time. The Mexicans in the neighborhood didn't like me, so they beat me up every day. I got bloody noses, fat lips. I got black eyes every single day. It was a complete nightmare. My childhood up until I moved to Mountville, Florida was not good. And so it gave me this deep feeling of powerlessness, of feeling small. And I didn't realize how much that feeling drove me until later on, until I'm looking back in retrospect and I'm thinking about the story of my life. And this is what I want to encourage all of you to do, is to think about the story of your life. Think about what you've been through. Think about how that shaped you. And then so ultimately, I had that feeling, and then when I was a teenager, I decided to take up martial arts because I didn't want to feel powerless. I didn't want to feel small. I wanted to feel like I could defend myself, and I became a very good martial artist. I was second in the state in black belt. I didn't realize what was driving me at the time, but then ultimately I ended up getting in trouble, going to prison. And when I was in prison, I can't even express to you the depth of the feeling of powerlessness you feel when you're in prison. I was afraid. I was scared every day. Not just of the inmates, which, by the way, I almost got in a lot of fights in prison, never actually got in a fight. But I had a guy come at me with a lock. I had a guy come at me with a broomstick, and I was able to avoid the fight at that point. But at the end of the day, I was sitting there in prison and feeling powerless every single day. And I never wanted to feel that pain again. But not only did I not want to feel that pain again, I didn't want other people to have to feel that pain. And so that's what drives me today, even still today. And so I want to talk to you about how that works. Next thing you know, I'm thinking about, well, how can I make this world a better place? What are my talents? So the second element to deciding your mission is not just the fire in the belly, it's also what are you good at? What is your talent? What's the water element? What flows? What flows for you? What do you do when you're not even trying? What do people say? Wow, you're so good at that. What comes easy for you? The third element is the air element. And that is when you put together the fire element, what your painful experiences, with the water element, what's easy for you and flows for you. And then that's putting those together. What happens when fire and water come together? Creates steam. And the steam does what? It rises. The steam rises, and your steam is going to rise when you decide what your mission is. This is your mission. Put together the fire, put together the water, and then you will rise when you know what your mission is. And then the last step is the earth element, which is bringing it all down to earth with a master goal. And that's what we're here to talk about. And you can focus on a master goal that is, and the master goal is how how well you're doing in pursuing your mission in life. So you bring it all down to a master goal. Let me back up right now. Say, everybody should have gotten a piece of paper or a pad of paper and a pen. I want to just take a minute. For those of you who are willing, I want you to write down this. I want this session to be very, very helpful to you. I want you to write down, my mission in life is. And I want you to think about the elements. And then you answer the question by how you can contribute the most to making this world a better place. So my mission in life is, and then finish that sentence. Fill in the blank. I'm going to tell you what my mission in life is. My mission in life is to empower people to overcome injuries, obstacles, and setbacks, and come back strong. That is my mission in life. Do you see how that ties into my mission? Come back stronger. Y'all have heard the phrase, right? This is my law firm. This is our phrase. This is what we go by. We have a TV show called Come Back Stronger, right? This is empowering because this is what my clients have to deal with. They are suffering through injury. A lot of times they're being taken advantage of by insurance companies. Big old giant insurance companies, right? Well, what do? We help them come back stronger. That's what I'm all about. That's what drives me. That's what I'm passionate about. But that's exactly what I want y'all to use in terms of thinking about what you can do. I use my painful experience, and I know that I'm a good speaker. I'm a good writer. How can I help? What can I do to help people contribute the most to making this world a better place? I can use what I'm doing, do what I'm doing. And then I created my mission, helping people come back strong. Now let's talk about the master goal. The third element is when you bring it all down to the master goal. Anybody like to share with me, by the way, their mission in life? Anyone? Okay, Q.
Okay, so my mission in life is to create experiences to put smiles on everyone's face.
Oh my gosh, I love it. 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 Okay, now, so next step is creating a master goal. The master goal brings it all down to earth by quantifying, making it measurable, making it something that you know where you stand. You can take inventory of every day to determine whether or not or where you stand in relation to achieving your master goal. Okay, so it's got to be personal. It should also be stated in the present tense as if the goal has already been accomplished. Remember, my master goal when I was in prison was I am the partner of a law firm by December 31st, 2005. Why is that the master goal? Remember, I had other goals. I'm a lawyer. I have perfect credit. I have a house. All that. I have all those goals. But the master goal is I am the partner of the law firm by December 31st, 2005. It was a master goal because if I achieve this goal, then I know that all the other goals are going to fall into place. It's an overarching goal. Okay? It's important to have an overarching goal, but it's stated in the first person. I am the partner of the law firm. It's quantifiable. I know whether or not I'm a partner of the law firm. If I haven't signed a contract with my partners, I haven't reached the goal. Once I sign my name on the dotted line, the goal has been achieved at that point. So now I've got the goal, but then I have to give it a deadline. The deadline is incredibly important. So it is I am, I have, I own. And then you state whatever it is, and then you give it a deadline. The deadline is so important. In my case, it all came to fruition in September 2005. Right? It all came to fruition in September 2005. And the deadline was December 31st, 2005. There's one thing that you might not have noticed that I didn't mention. Remember, the goal I set for myself was not just what I had achieved by September, but I also so what happened was, I was doing great. I had become a partner in the law firm. I was making money as a paralegal. I had purchased a house, not just one house, but 3 houses. I decided I was going to make a bunch of money as a real estate mogul. It turned out to be a terrible idea. But I could have purchased the Mercedes, but I put it out of my mind because I figured I don't need a fancy car. I always make money in real estate. Well, guess what? The universe has a different plan. This is the craziest story of my life. I still can't believe this happened to me. So anyway, I get a call in December of 2005 from my stepdad. He says, hey, I want to invite you to a Christmas party. Almost Christmas, it's December. I said, okay. I get to the Christmas party. He says, it's in the Phoenix Springs. So I drive to Phoenix Springs. I'm there. I'm like, it's a good opportunity to see my mom. Get to the Christmas party. At the Christmas party, I find out, I didn't know this ahead of time, that it happens to be a Mercedes Club Christmas party. But what are we doing? My stepdad said, I am a member of the Mercedes Club. I said, okay, this is cool, let's have fun. Next thing you know, an old lady stands up, and she says, we want to know what the purpose is. I raised my hand. I'm from Tallahassee, I go to Tallahassee. She says, congratulations. You just won a silver convertible Mercedes SL 500, same color, same name, same model. I had ripped a page out of a magazine and posted it on my prison locker with a picture of this very Mercedes. And she gives this to the Mercedes to me, and I said, you know, well, here's the catch. Oh, no, it's not that. Oh, here we go. This is the catch. Matchbox version. This is the actual Mercedes that I got. There's something magical about writing your goals down. And it's something magical about writing your goals down, ripping a page out of a magazine and looking at your goals, about visualizing yourself having reached the goal, about putting that emotion into achieving your goal. There's something magical about it because there is no way, nobody in the world can ever convince me that that was coincidence. I don't know if there are any mathematicians in the room, but the odds of that happening are so astronomical. Right before the deadline, remember, this is literally right before the deadline of December 31st, 2005. The odds of that happening by chance are so astronomical, it boggles the mind. So I have spent the last 20 years of my life, 22 years of my life, trying to understand the mechanics of how that happened. How did that happen? What is the mechanism for making that happen? And why did it happen to me? Because if you think about it, so much had to happen behind the scenes for that to come to fruition. The Matchbox company had to decide to make this particular model of a vehicle, this color, this model, this everything. The lady that took her on the party, she had to decide, somebody had to decide that they were going to give a car away to a random person. All these things, my stepdad had to decide that he was going to invite me to a Mercedes Club Christmas party. All these things had to happen behind the scenes for this to manifest this experience in my life. So the question is, how did it happen? How did it happen? So I have a theory on this. It's a working theory, but I believe that we are literally living in a world of infinite possibilities. And it's the thoughts that we have, the beliefs that we have, the actions we take, and the decisions we make that ultimately allow us to tune in to the future that is most in resonance with who we are. And I believe that what happened was when I wrote down over and over, I own a silver convertible Mercedes SL 500, and I wrote it down over and over and over and over. I believe what I was doing is I was tuning into a huge bandwidth of potential realities and potential futures where I got a Mercedes in some way, shape, or form. In some way, shape, or form. So whether or not my theory is correct, the mechanics of how you manifest your reality is absolutely how do you stay focused on your master goal in a way that you are going to get everything that you want in life? One of the main keys is make sure that the goal is awesome. Make sure that it's amazing. Make sure that it's the kind of goal that keeps you up at night and wakes you up in the morning, where you cannot wait to go. You're not getting up to go to work. You're getting up to play. You're getting up to pursue your mission. And your goal excites you so much that you just can't even stand it. That's what motivates you. If you have to motivate yourself to get up and get to work, then you are not pursuing your mission. I know you're pursuing your mission because you're up at 6 a.m. every morning. All right, so create a big, awesome master goal. What happens with this master goal? The master goal is awesome because it becomes your compass. Let me tell you what my master goal is. I helped more than 100,000 people come back stronger by January 1st, 2030. It's a quantifiable goal. It's stated in first person. It's quantifiable. It has a deadline by January 1st, 2030. I want everybody here right now to take your pen and pad and write down your master goal. Now, don't be afraid that if you get it wrong, if it's not your perfect master goal, that the roof is going to cave in. You can always alter or change your master goal, but there's something magical about writing the goal down. Once you write the goal down, it's almost as if, it's not almost as if you are imprinting it. You are downloading it into your subconscious mind, and it increases the likelihood that you are going to manifest that as your reality. Brian Tracy recommends, he's my favorite motivational speaker. He recommends that you write your master goal down every single day. He's a big, big believer in having a major definite purpose. He's one of the reasons why I am where I am today. He's one of the books that I read while I was in prison. It's writing down your master goal. Makes it 10, 20, 30, 50, exponentially more likely that it's actually going to come to fruition. And then you have it in your mind. And you use it as your compass throughout the day. So in other words, let's say, for example, you find yourself becoming distracted. You find yourself thinking about negative things. Or you find yourself surfing YouTube. Aimlessly surfing YouTube, wasting your time, not doing anything productive. All you have to do is, boom, say your master goal to yourself in your mind, and it's like a domino effect. You state your master goal to yourself, you state it out loud if you're alone, and then next thing you know, it leads to more thoughts, and next thing you know, you're doing something productive, and you are focused, and you're moving forward, further and faster toward where you want to be from where you are. So you're using it as a compass. How is the best way to use it as a compass? Is to break it down into smaller. The key is you don't want to just have this huge, massive, awesome, amazing master goal, because when you look at that, when you look at a big goal like that, sometimes it can be overwhelming. It's like, how can I get from here to there? That is such a huge leap. It's not realistic for me to think that I can actually do this. If I hadn't broken down my goal of becoming a lawyer and a partner of a law firm, if I hadn't broken it down step by step, then I never would have been able to do it. Because it's so overwhelming, it's such a big challenge. So you break it down to a yearly goal, a monthly goal, and then the key to getting the most out of life and getting the most out of every day is the daily goal. That's where you're going to get the juice. The juice comes from the daily goal. So what I do is I do a goal crushers meeting every morning. Everybody here is invited. Every morning, every weekday morning at 6 a.m. And everybody that joins the group says, states their master goal, states it to the group, and then states the one most important thing they're going to do today to test their limits, to push their limits, to move further faster toward the master goal. And then that is the focus. And then again, just like the master goal, you give it a deadline. So in other words, sometimes you're going to have more than one thing, but you always want to give doubtful as to whether or not you can actually accomplish this goal. If you have a goal like that, then you are going to be focused. You're going to get your stuff done fast. I'll give you an example. I decided the other day that I was going to get 5 Google reviews by 10 a.m. That was what I stated as my master goal. Well, 5 Google reviews, just to put things in perspective, we probably have 700 or so Google reviews that we've accumulated over a period of 25 years. So 5 Google reviews in one day is a lot. But if you get 5 Google reviews before 10 a.m., that's pushing the limits, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to set this as a goal. I'm going to test my limits. Let's do this. Next thing you know, the ideas started flowing about how I can do it, who I can call, what can I do. By 10 a.m. Now, if I had set the goal for 10 Google reviews, who knows? Maybe I would have done it. You never know what you're capable of until you test your limits. So when determining your master goal, make sure you're pushing your limits. You're testing yourself. And then when determining your daily goal, you've got to push your limits and test yourself. Bodybuilders know this. They know that in order to grow, you have to push yourself to failure. Do not be afraid of failure, because failure is how you learn the lessons you need to learn to become the person that you need to become to get what you want and to get the most out of life. Failure is one of the keys to success. Okay, I'm going to get into this. This is exciting stuff. Once you set your master goal, all of a sudden, your brain opens up to ways and possibilities of achieving this master goal that you never would have seen if you hadn't created the master goal. It's called the reticular activating system. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but let's say, for example, you buy a car, and then all of a sudden, now you see the same car that you bought everywhere around. Right? It's because the cars were always there, but you didn't notice them because they weren't on your radar. The same thing is true of opportunities. The opportunities for you to reach your goal are always there. They surround you. They're everywhere. But until you create the big, awesome, amazing goal, and you've got a deadline, you're focused, then you won't see the opportunity. The key is the master goal opens up your eyes. It's the reticular activating system. It's really exciting. So, you've got a master goal. You're focusing on it. You're doing everything. This is exciting. This is exciting. Powerful stuff. When you are going throughout your day and you have a master goal, it is so important to think, to assume, this law of assumption, to assume that you are destined to achieve this goal. You cannot, please don't skip this step. Assume you are destined to achieve this goal, because when you do this, what you will notice is that every single thing that happens in your life, every little detail, you see as a sign from the universe. You're constantly looking for signs. Next thing you know, you see a billboard that grabs your attention. And then you're like, oh, maybe I should do this. And life becomes like a really amazing game. Next thing you know, you run into somebody and you have a conversation, and it opens your mind. Next thing you know, you open a book to the exact right page that has the exact right thing that you're looking for, that you needed to hear. This happens all the time, but you have to assume that the universe has your back. And how do you assume the universe has your back? You know the universe has your back when you are focused, dead focused on making this world a better place. And when you have a master goal that is specifically designed to make the world a better place, how you can contribute the most to make the world a better place, then you know that it is at your back. Because the universe, this world is trying to evolve. We're not just here standing still. We're trying to evolve. If you look at history, the world is a better place to live now for human beings than it ever has been. Some people would argue with me about that, but the fact of the matter is that we are living in a time where even the poorest of us live better than kings and queens lived in hundreds of years ago. With the technology and the electric direction it's going. And the best way to catch a wave is in the direction it's flowing. Catch the wave, and then you know the universe has got your back. Believe it is your destiny to reach your goal, and then life becomes a magical playground. I'm telling you, it is awesome. It's awesome. I mean, you meet all these people that want to help you and encourage you. That's the other thing, is that when your goal is specifically designed to make the world a better place, all of a sudden people catch your vision. And you feel that love and support. It's awesome. It's awesome. That's how you get the juice out of life. Now you're building relationships with people, with law partners, with staff members, with the people in the group that you join. You're building these relationships with awesome people, and you're living the life. That's the juice that we get out of life. Awesome. So yeah, I've talked about life being your guy now. Something we all have to face. This is fascinating. Is that when you set your master goal, you know exactly what you want. You've got a plan. You are, every single day, you are focusing on what you have to do to move further faster toward the master goal. What's going to happen? You are going to hit a brick wall. You are going to fail. You are going to be discouraged. You are going to have doubts and fears and challenges. People are going to tell you you're crazy. You are going to lose relationships. I can't tell you how many relationships that I've lost because people can't relate. People can't relate because I'm going places and they're not. Maybe hopefully they will come along. But at the end of the day, here's what happens. This is fascinating. When you hit that brick wall, when you fail, this is the universe. Think about an archer, the arrow, and the bow. Okay? The archer, the arrow, and the bow. What happens is the universe is the archer. You are the arrow. And the universe will pull the arrow back, pull you backwards in order to launch you fast and furious towards your goal. But you don't get that launch unless you get that backwards momentum. That's why you're hitting the brick wall. This is the universe that is thrusting you forward. I lost my first 3 jury trials. I'm a trial lawyer. I lost my first 3 jury trials. And it was gut-wrenchingly painful. It was an absolute, I can't even tell you how hard it is to lose a jury trial. But literally, I locked myself in a closet for months, not closet, in an office for a month, and do nothing but prepare for this trial. And I put my heart and soul, and I love my client, and my clients counted on me to change their life, to help them come back stronger. And I go to trial and I lose. And it was, I cried every time. I cried. I didn't just cry. I thought it was bad. But I'll tell you one thing. I thank God today that I lost those trials, because I learned lessons in those trials that compelled me forward to become the type of trial lawyer that I know I can go to court and win today. And so I have had, since that, I learned that I have got to improve my trial skills. I learned that I have to become great at jury selection. I have to become great at cross-examination. I have to become great at opening statements and closing statements. And so next thing you know, I started taking the lessons and I had a mentor, and I did 3 classes on 3 week-long classes on trying cases, and then I started doing mock trials. And I learned the lessons that I had to learn to become a great trial lawyer. Next thing you know, I'm knocking out big verdicts. And for my clients, and I see the look on my client's face when we win, and I've got justice for them. I had one client, he was on his deathbed, and he hung on. He hung on to the last, literally very last, because he wanted to see that verdict come out. And he got the verdict, he got a $5 million verdict, and he lost his daughter. And he wanted to see justice for his daughter. And when I got that verdict, then he let go. He died literally a month later. Yeah. It's amazing, but when I saw the look on his face after that verdict came out, it was life-changing. faster than you can ever imagine. Okay. I want you to think about the story of your life. We all have a story. Came from humble beginnings. I came up, I was the smallest guy in my class. We all have a story. The goal for life, for everybody. One of my favorite stories is The Matrix. The Matrix is awesome because this is somebody who had doubt in himself. I don't know if y'all see The Matrix, but it's Neo. It's about a guy that has doubt in himself. He's just a regular guy. He doesn't realize that he was meant to be something awesome. He was meant to be one. Okay? He was meant to be the one. And the one meaning he's the one that's here to lift up everybody else in the entire world. Okay? Every person's story is exactly this. It's one of the greatest stories ever. There's another story that I love. It's called The Last Dragon, where there's a guy's a fighter, and at the end of the day, he's very humble. And at the end of the story, he learns. There's this really egotistical guy that's beating him up at the end of the story. The guy's drowning him, and he takes his head out and says, "Who's the master?" And then finally, at the end of the story, the main character leaves. Bruce Lee, actually, he says, "I am." Okay, this is everybody's story. Everybody is here to realize that you are the main character. We are all living in our own universe, and you are the main character of your story. And you are the one that is going to make the difference between, for everything that you experience in your life. But not only that, you are making the difference for everybody. And this is what I mean by that. Y'all have heard of the butterfly effect? Who's heard of the butterfly effect? Yeah? Okay. Butterfly effect is the idea that the flap of a butterfly wing on one side of the planet can change the weather on the other side. It's a mathematical idea. This is not just speculation. It might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but this is actual fact, that every single thing that happens changes everything else. Every tiny thing, like the flap of the butterfly wing, changes reality for everybody else. And why is that important? It's important because if the flap of a butterfly wing can change the weather, think about what you can do with intention. Think about the change that you can make with intention. And so what happens is, every moment of every day, we're making decisions, we're making choices. If I choose to go left, I'm stepping into one of those infinite possible futures. Okay? There's a future where I choose to go left, and that changes everything for everybody. If I choose to go right, I'm stepping into an entirely different future. It changes the entire algorithm. It changes everything. So the choice and the key is that everybody else in this room has to live with the choices I make. And that everybody else in this room has to live with the choices you make. And so life is about realizing the incredible power that we have to make an impact on the rest of the world, and realizing that you are the hub. You are the hub. The decisions you make, whether they're good or bad, they're going to affect everybody, not just the people in your immediate vicinity. They affect the rest of the world forever, for all eternity. Everybody in the world has to live with the decisions we make. Well, this is incredibly important. And it's an important reason why we should all have a master's own. So, the one thing I want to leave everybody with is this. We are all connected. We are so intimately connected that nothing that we do is done in isolation and affects everybody recognize that power, that incredible power we have to affect everybody, then all of a sudden we realize that we have a responsibility to everybody else. And then all of a sudden we realize that every decision we make, every moment of every day matters. And the number one malady, disease that has plagued humanity is the false sense of disempowerment. You have so many people out there thinking that whatever I do doesn't matter. I can go out and do this or do that, do whatever, make bad decisions, and the only person it's affecting is me. That is the disease that plagues humanity. But when the way that humanity is going to evolve in the best, most powerful way is when people start to recognize it is one heart, one mind at a time. When people start to recognize that we are all connected and everything we do, everything we say, every thought we allow to arise in our minds matters. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that you all got something out of this. My book is in the back. If everybody
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you coming out. Jimmy, that was absolutely incredible. Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts on this. We do have one more speaker if you'd like to hang around. And there's yoga on the yard if you feel so inclined. This speaker will be speaking on legal matters.